white belt is harder than a black belt for one reason. They did the hardest thing, which most people won't do. They took action, they stepped on the mat. There is not a financial literacy course that will teach you what these two black belts, Gabe and myself, black belts in martial arts and now black belts in infinite banking, will teach you today and over the next several weeks. Whether you're a seasoned infinite banking practitioner or a white belt, this series has something for everyone. We have put together the ultimate guide for you and your specific financial situation. We'll keep it stupid simple, my promise, and show you how success is all but guaranteed as long as you're willing to come on the mat and do the work. Like we have shared before, the knowledge is free, but that does not mean the path to wealth is easy. It's going to take some paradigm shifting. So now let's step on the mat with Gabe and I and dive in. Let me introduce Gabe Retana really quick. This is actually from what happens when you're looking to collaborate, when you're looking to work with others that are like-minded. Gabe, I met him. His story has really fascinated me since the first time I heard about it. He's the owner and instructor of Six Blades Jiu-Jitsu, New Market, Maryland. He's been open for 2 years. This is his dream, as he's going to share with you. He got his black belt this February from Sensei Xande Ribeiro, and he was a high school biology and physics teacher, which I did not know, graduating from UNC, when he realized after 2012 that being in the school system and being an employee and an instructor in that role was not his dream. So Gabe, welcome to the screen, welcome to the show. Please share with the fine folks here what we're doing and a little bit more about yourself.
Yes, thank you. I kind of did everything I was taught in school. I came from Costa Rica and I worked hard to get good grades so I could get to a good college. But it turned out I wanted to go to a school that didn't even offer my major. I wanted to do engineering, but that was done at NC State, the engineering school. So I ended up choosing a physics major at UNC, but I quickly realized I didn't want to study particles my whole life. And I tried to get into the business school. I was rejected, and I ended up deciding to go with something I wouldn't have regretted getting a degree in, which was exercise and sports science. And my goal was to go pre-med before all those kinds of things changed. So I wanted to go pre-med with exercise sports science. I graduated and then I became a high school teacher and I was a football coach. And I wanted to teach for a couple of years before going to med school. I still had to take a couple classes, but I ended up getting a really, really bad burnout. And I had to actually leave the school system early. Like in the middle of the year, I had to leave, I think in April. My health just crashed. And here I am, an exercise science major, and, I can't even take care of my own health. So I had to reevaluate a lot of things. A friend of mine invited me to join like this online travel MLM, and that kind of got me in the door to entrepreneurship. Fast forward, I decided to become a real estate investor, and I had met Brent, and I started to implement the infinite banking. And now I literally get to live my dream, which is run a jiu-jitsu school. I wanted to be the head instructor of a program. I loved my time as a teacher, being a high school coach, football coach. I got to coach the JV and the varsity. I was a strength and conditioning coach, and we had some of the students go to the NFL. But now I get to do that with jiu-jitsu, which is pretty cool. But I don't want to go too much into my story.
No, I was gonna say it's amazing, brother, and I'm so excited that you're here. 2 seconds about my journey. So I watched during the pandemic, living in Florida, right? I watched my youngest son and my wife start training under now Chief Master Neri, who's an 8th degree in Taekwondo, multiple time world champion, been running his school for 24 years. And I would watch them and I would think, man, that looks cool. But I'm too busy, is what I told myself. I was too busy to step on the mat. I waited a year after watching them train. I'm like, I gotta step on the mat. And then we started recruiting other parents that were doing the same role as me. And I just would ask them, pick a date. Like I just did this yesterday. I told a guy who's a white belt, I'm like, pick a date. And he's gonna be there next Wednesday. He's committed to step on the mat. And so this past June, I earned my first degree black belt, which is just as you guys are going to see, it is just the beginning of the journey. Being a black belt doesn't mean you know nothing. It just means that you have put in 3 years of dedication and you're committed to more mastery. You're committed to rising your level and mastery. And so, I was super excited with this idea that Gabe had. Said, well, let's make a super simple, let's make it educational, let's make it where we're having people participate. Like, we always want more participation from the group. So you guys write down your questions today. We're gonna, for the first 10, 15 minutes of this, gonna ask for a lot of feedback, because the truth is, the more we think about this is, if we don't, I'm just gonna jump right into this, unless you understand the problem, the solution is not gonna matter to you. And most of the people that find their way to us, well, the problem has weighed them down so far down, they've hit rock bottom and they have to come out. But we want to show everyone, you don't have to hit rock bottom for you to understand what the solution is and what the problem is. So, it's Nelson Nash's quote. So let's start with the problem. Let's just put it out there. Who's the enemy? The banks are not your friend, right? Whether you're in the US or you're in Canada, the only two places you can practice infinite banking, to my knowledge, the banks are profiting from every dollar that's flowing through your system. If you agree with this statement, give me a big Y in the chat. If you don't, put an N. It's okay to disagree. What do you guys think? Gabe, if you could watch the chat for us too. Okay, we're getting a lot of yeses. We're getting abundant amount of yeses. Okay. So it seems like the majority agree with us, Gabe, that the banks aren't our friend. They are what I like to call the evil empire, right? And we're in one of the greatest financial messes that we've ever experienced on the planet. And it's all courtesy of what started here in America in 1913, right? The Federal Reserve, the central banking system. We're not going to dive deep in that today, but just understand the banks aren't your friends. So, Gabe, give me this one. So we've all had some major expenses throughout our lifetime. What are some of the major expenses? Gabe, give me some of your major expenses while people pop it in the chat for us.
Yeah, fresh out of college, college, number one, I was blessed that my father put money into a college savings account, but eventually that ran out. But I had my uncle do the same thing for my cousin. He didn't go to college, and they had all kinds of problems getting the money out where he could have used it to start a business. But college, and then our living expense, if we don't own our home, then we got to pay rent somewhere. So I knew I didn't want to pay rent when I got out of college, so I ended up buying a house.
So you got mortgage, you got education, right? Mortgage, education. Pop it in the chat, guys. What are some of the life's major expenses? Now, Linus, I know you've got a whole slew of girls. I don't even know what you call a gaggle of girls, right? You've got a whole slew of girls. We got diapers. We've got education. We've got mortgages. We've got weddings. We've got trips, right? We have all of these things, and we finance. We do the F word all the time. We F it all the time. We finance the things. And how do you pay? There's only 4 ways that you pay. 99% of Americans, right? The ones not doing what we're going to teach you as white belts today. Some of you are maybe colored belts. Some of you might be black belts. Like Linus, I know you've been practicing for a while. But you finance things in 4 ways. You save up, you have discipline, you pay cash. You lease, you finance with a line of credit, or you use credit cards and you play the credit card game. And guess who's in charge of all of that? Secret, pop in the chat. Who's in charge of all that? Cash, lease, finance, and we're financing everything we buy. Who's in charge of all of those situations? For the majority of them, who has control of that money? The banks.
Right, banks.
Right? The people that aren't our friends. We already established they are not our friends. So let's think about this. And we want to keep it, again, stupid simple. So when you guys work hard, when you add value, when you do the things you love, where's your money going? Every dollar you earn is going into someone else's bank or a credit union. And every transaction you do, the bills, the loans, the mortgages, you're giving up that future earning opportunity.
And if you're a W-2 employee, right, the government takes it first. You don't even get the whole paycheck. It's already been taken out.
Oh, we're gonna get there, Gabe. Don't you worry. We got some complicit people in this, like Linda said, it was a fishy year in 1913. So we already talked about we're financing all the things we buy. And we're giving up the opportunity cost when we're doing it through someone else's system. And so again, you're doing all the hard work and it's getting financed through someone else's bank using cash, loans, and credit cards. So with that, you know, it's really easy to see what's happening. You've been conditioned just to give up your money. And this is what we want to show you. If you step onto the mat with us, if you go through this course, we're going to show you how to take back control of that money. So let's talk about who owns the money. And this always blows my mind, Gabe. So every time that you make money, and like you started to say, you're a W-2 employee, you're an entrepreneur, you make money and it gets deposited, who owns the money at that point? You know? It's the banks.
It's the bank, yeah.
Yeah, you, as soon as you deposit it, it is now, to the banks, it is now a liability because they're on the hook to pay you that 0.07%, or if you have a high yield at 3.5 or 4 or 4.5,
yep.
Right? And it's been going down lately. Like I'm talking to people who have high yield. It's been going down and it will change because it's not guaranteed. But look at this chart we put here. We just put some of the major expenses and just the percentages that are leaving people going out the door. And like everything, we've been groomed to take care of everyone else's family before our own. If we're thinking long term, let's look at the lost opportunity across generations. Right? Every dollar that we're transferring to the bank, we're losing control over it, and that's costing our future generations wealth. That's causing your kids, grandkids, and future kids that haven't even been realized yet. They're just ideas. And is that a problem? Like, I need you guys to really anchor in this. Is that a problem? Yes or no? Give me a Y in the chat or an N in the chat. Is it a problem that you're transferring all that wealth away from your family? Okay, we're getting a lot of yeses again. So when you're systematically transferring all that money away, every generation that comes after you, because every time you're swiping your debit card, you're completing an online banking transaction, you're paying a mortgage, whatever, you're using cash, whatever the expenses are, you're permanently giving up that opportunity cost to use that money again, and earn interest on that money. And it's a lost opportunity for multiple generations, which is what we say we really care about as men, as family, as family leaders. So great job for you guys getting in there and seeing this. And so, again, we're beating this up a little bit, but who owns the source of your money? Again, it's important that we're engaging our thinking. And this is something that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. So when we understand that we deposit our money in the bank and that we've worked hard for that money, who owns the money that we deposit? Gabe, who owns it?
Yeah, it's the banks.
It's the banks. And are the banks our friends, Gabe?
No. And that's what's crazy. If you're new, if you've been around, you probably can see where we're building up to. But if you're new and you're probably thinking, why are these guys railing on the banks? It's just been normalized for us to just put our money in a checking account and not think of anything else. It's just so normal how society operates. And as infinite bankers, we're trying to open your eyes to the truth. So it's so important that we keep nailing this. And throughout the course, we're going to go deep into each one, like how the banking function works.
Yeah, so we're gonna
hear your role in the system, the borrower, depositor.
That's it.
Lender.
So right now, we do two things in our financial life. We are the depositor and we are the borrower or the creditor, right? We're taking lines of credit, we're borrowing back, we're paying cash, but we're depositing and who's really making the money? The banks. So as Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. So if we're only doing these two characters, and it's a game, we're going to talk about Einstein talking about the game, but if we're only the depositor and the creditor or the borrower, what would it feel like? What would it feel? Would you guys be excited if you learned how to be the owner of a bank and be the banker? The verb. Banking is a verb. That's why Nelson's book is called Becoming Your Own Banker. It doesn't say becoming your own bank. Because a bank means it's stagnant, right? It has to stay in motion. It's the verb of action, which is why we are teaching you how to step on the mat today. And here's a fun one. We're just after the election, right? No matter who you're voting for, do you guys feel like you're not taxed enough? Do you guys feel like You should be taxed more? Anyone? Anyone that feels like they should be taxed more? Now, Dennis says he's taxed too much. Yeah, I feel like that, right? Margaret, no one feels like they should be taxed more. Okay. So that's a hot topic, but this is something where we're, think about this. The average American family is, and I try to get an exact number for you guys, but it's probably about 30% of what you earn goes to the government. The more you make, the higher you climb, the more they take. The more you make, the more they're going to take. And it makes you sometimes not want to keep expanding. I've been there as a business owner. Sometimes I'm like, we're killing it. We're helping so many people. We're serving. And all of a sudden I go meet with my accountant and she's like, well, you're going to have to pay this much in taxes and I want to run away. We're going to have that meeting in a week or so. And so think about how much money is flowing to the government during your lifetime. How much is flowing away from you in the form of taxation? Not just income tax, but all the other taxes you pay. The government's constantly hovering. They got their fork and their knife, Gabe. They're ready. They're ready to cut in there and take a big chunk of whatever it is. And you've got to understand how to shield this growing pool of money from taxation. And it's all by changing the one thing that we're going to show you during this course. And we're going to show you something that's easy, it's legal, and it's compliant as it relates to the exemptions in the tax code, which is 7702. Like, I was talking to a guy who helps the wealthy of the wealthy business owners do their tax planning, and you know how he teaches what we teach, Gabe? He calls it the rich man Roth. And these multimillionaires to say, okay, I'm going to put all my money into the rich man Roth, where I can guard it and keep it away from taxation in the future. We're going to walk you through not all of this tonight, but we're going to, who's at risk for the excess taxation? Gabe, who's at risk? Any guesses? You guys in the chat? Linda says he's at risk. Who else is at risk?
The people that make money, right?
That's it. That's it. The people that are here. This is the 5%. The people that are here. And yes, I know we're setting this up where this is like the dramatic opening, but we have to make people understand. Like, if you don't understand the problem, the solution doesn't matter. So how does the government make money? Does the government go and create like we create? No. The government goes and finds things to tax. They need revenue for their projects, for the people that need help, for the people that are being flown in here and fed and clothed and given a place to live and be free. But they're looking at us as taxable assets for future funding. You, I, Gabe, Ronnie, Dennis, everyone here, everyone watching this, you guys are the future assets. So how do we shield that wealth? How do we legally shelter your money from excessive taxation? We're going to show you how, right? We're going to show you how. And by the way, if they can't raise your taxes, because we will revolt, they're going to do it in a way that's even more insidious, which is what we've all seen with inflation. And this is the problem with, again, why banks aren't our friends, which we're going to teach you during this course. And the worst thing for anyone to inherit, our kids, our grandkids, is a taxable inheritance. I talk to people all the time who pay cash. They're like, I'm going to leave my family, my estate, my home, my business, my this, my that. Well, guess what? You inherited $1 million that's not shielded from the government. You're going to pay 30, 40+% in taxes. You're going to give away $300,000 to $400,000 of $1 million to the government of your inheritance. And wait, Gabe, it gets worse. It gets worse. I'm doing this with a smile on my face, but there's a lot of pain in my heart because I've been here. I've done all these things wrong myself. So what are some examples, guys? Put it in the chat. What are some examples of things that you pay interest payments on? What are things that you're paying interest to other families? The mortgages, right? Pop in the chat. Mortgage, credit cards, loans, what else? So, and that is right there, the cost of borrowing, and this has been going on, Gabe, for longer than you've been alive, my friend, I'm pretty sure. Over 4 decades, when Nelson started doing this study, and we've looked at these facts and figures as well, but over 34.5 cents of every dollar we earn, and I'd say it's probably more than this, because people want their cake and they want to eat it too in America. So we're giving.
Earlier, I was just thinking, these are financial bullies, man.
Yeah.
Like between the government and these lending institutions, and they addict us to just the cheap money, you know, and this is what happens. People get the cheap money, so they start consuming.
I like that bankster. Someone posted that they're banksters. They're like gangsters, right? They're banksters. I mean, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a legal theft. It's legal theft. I'm a little scared saying that, but luckily we're both, you know, we're ready, man. We're both, I mean, Gabe will throw you, you know, I'll have to fight you, I guess. So, but we're ready for this. So, like we talked about, we've got credit cards, vehicle loans, payday loans, which are the worst. Like, talk about predatory, payday loans are the highest, right? And then the credit card, the zero interest trap. How many of you get more than 10 mailers that talk about 0% interest or transferring anything you own to a 0%? Gabe, how many do you think you get a week?
I get them all the time.
You ever look and laugh? Do you ever look and think like back to the old Gabe who before infinite banking, before you stepped on the mat, what you would have done?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I do use some of them, but I only take debt to use as to pay for business expenses. But it's all run through my policy, and you know, as long as I can recapture it. But it has led me into problems, so I'm never gonna touch those again. I promise.
Wait. So what I hear you saying is because you're committed to mastery, right?
Yeah.
You're committed to mastery, and you're gonna make mistakes on the way. Is that right? Is that what you're telling me?
And like Nelson said, it takes 20 years or so to finally cut out all the banks, right? So we're not going to be perfect along the way, but I try to get a little bit better and learn from my mistakes and other people's mistakes too.
That's incredible. And that is the truth that we're going to bring to you all the time. Like, I made all the financial mistakes. Like, when we paid off all of our debts, I had a debt consolidation, I had 0% credit cards, I had transferred over. Like, I had done it all. Like, I had played the bank's games, but then when I realized the bank wasn't my friend, instantly changed. I instantly changed because I understood what was at cost for my boys, for my wife, for my family, for myself. You gotta love yourself a little bit more. So imagine you guys we're in the holidays. And for a lot of fathers, you know, I know there's women here as well. I really focus on fathers, Gabe, just because I'm reflecting back to how I felt a few years ago. And I can remember just sitting there and Christmas is coming up, your kids are excited, they're writing their Christmas list, right? And then all you're thinking in your head is, how am I going to pay for this? It's stressful. Like, it's supposed to be a time of joy and love. Imagine sitting around the table, celebrating with your family, eating the big meal. You got multiple generations. Now, imagine how much has been earned by everyone at that table. Could you write me a check for that amount from your bank right now?
No way.
No, I mean, I bet you a lot of people wish they could, right? So imagine all of that money that's flowed away from your family. Like, if it's not just yourself, how much has flowed away from your family and gone to someone else's vacation, someone else's gift, someone else's yacht? You know, it's frustrating, right? You guys feel frustrated by that?
A lot of people don't know that's wrong, right? Like, we're taught that it's okay to give it all away. Instead, no one's taught systems to recapture the money that leaves. Everyone's taught to, the little money I do save, let me try to grow it as fast as I can. Sometimes you get too aggressive, risk, right? And part of what we're doing here is the way of a black belt, we want to think is like, if you're practicing IBC like the perfect way, and once you understand it, like, you don't want to go back to the other way, right?
And that's it. Once you go down the rabbit hole, we like to say, or step on the mat. We're inviting you guys to step on the mat because it's a process, it's a practice. And so, and think about this magnified. Like, we talked about being creators here. How many of you have watched, like, put an I in the chat or put an E in the chat for if you've seen Earl or heard of Earl Nightingale's Strangest Secret? It's kind of how we started off our 2024, was listening to that every day for a month. And when you listen to that, what you learn is it's about you taking ownership, which is what we're doing, inviting you to do here by stepping on the mat. And when you grow a business, when you go solve problems or you create a product that people want and need and buy from you to add more value, guess what? Business owners get this problem magnified because as you make more money, you get taxed on more things. I mean, I just want to go through and really establish why the banks aren't a problem. So now, all of you being the top 5%, being here, giving us your most valuable resource, your time, your energy, your focus, your willingness to be a white belt or a blue belt. Or Gabe, what's the belts in jiu-jitsu? How does it roll through?
Traditionally, it's white, blue, purple, brown, black.
All right. And how long does it take you to get a black belt?
Between 8 to 12 years. We have the whole curriculum here.
So see, Gabe come in the mastery, 8 to 12 years to be a black belt, right? The way that Victory Martial Arts, where we practice, you can get your black belt in 3 years. But you don't get the belt that Gabe's talking about. Like, you're not actually a black belt until you get to like 4th or 5th degree. Like 5th degree, you can start your road towards mastership.
At which level are you allowed to open up your own school?
It's a great question. I do not know that answer yet, but I could find out for you. Now that you guys are informed, this will be, of course, we're going to keep going through this. This is just an introduction so we understand the problem. This has been one of my favorite quotes since I learned about infinite banking. First, you have to know the rules of the game, and then you have to play better than anyone else. Offering that we can play alongside of each other. And again, if it's a game, who are we playing it against? Pop it in the chat. Who are we playing this game against? Banks, right? The evil empire. The ones that want to control us. That want to control our finances. Now we're going to talk about a tale of two paths. Gabe, you love this one, right? This is the two paths.
This is one of my favorite concepts. Have you heard Brent explain it?
I would love for you to walk us through the paths of financial literacy. You got two paths to pick from, a left path and a right path. Tell us about those paths, Gabe.
And more specifically, I think is, with IBC and what we teach at the Money Multiplier. But where do I start? Like the Warren Buffett quote, if poor people would just do what rich people do, they'd be rich too. There's universal principles that come to being successful with money and with business.
And so everybody knows, I'm just going to point this out again. We're not worried. Perfect is stupid. Okay?
Yeah.
So we're going to invite you guys to read Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. We're going to have things pop up. I've got my beautiful wife holding the camera because it's crooked right now. Because I had took the laptop outside earlier to do a call with someone. So Gabe, talk about the two paths quickly. Like kind of bring us through what the two paths for someone are.
Yeah, well, if you don't pay yourself first, if you never save money, you're never going to create any kind of freedom because you're always going to have to continue to show up at work. If you have, at least say 6 months expenses saved and your boss, is maybe really disrespectful with you, if you need to, maybe you get up and leave and go start your own thing or you go work for someone else. But if you don't have any savings or if you owe money, that's not even a choice for you, right? So saving. And then what do you do with that money? Are you now going to try to risk it in the market in something else? But I didn't know there was ways of guaranteed ways of compounding your money. I think having guaranteed is extremely important. I had a friend of mine try to pitch me like an IUL. And as soon as I started asking about guarantees, because I need a guarantee, there was nothing else you could say. And in real estate, you're not guaranteed your home to go up. There's no guarantees in the financial industry. So to learn that you can do that, now it takes away from you putting your money at risk and learning how to leverage your money safely. Now you can, because with Brent, I see him, and not only is he extremely wealthy, he has just kind of peace of mind in general, right? I've seen people that are very wealthy, but they're anxious and stressed, and it ends up kind of killing them, right? So it's like which path do you want to have?
Well, you have the difference, right? What you're talking about is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Like the wealthy understand how not to give their money back. And so when we're talking about those two paths, we're talking about, and Gabe brought me this concept, we're talking about the uninformed path. This is how we are groomed to give up control over money. This is how we're taught to assume the risk. And assuming the risk is where the stress comes from. When you're going to take the little bit of savings you have, because again, you're paying everyone else first, and you're trying to make that grow into something big. Like I talked to a guy earlier, it's like his plan is to take his retirement and then put it into bots like that were going to do auto trading. And I was like, hey, if you really know that, go for it. But I talked to a lot of people who have done that type of, experience or that type of investment, and they've lost everything. And, Don Blanton said, one of the principles that was brought to me when I asked for a financial philosophy is there's more to be had. You guys can write this down. There's more to be had from avoiding the losses than there is from picking the winners. And so when we talk about the informed path, like Gabe talked about, how can you have a guarantee that your money is going to grow at a constant rate always? It's going to look like this. It's not going to look like the stock market. It's going to go from bottom left to top right and grow every single day. It'll never be worth less tomorrow than it is today. Guaranteed.
And part of the informed path too, I think, Jason, and you touch on this a lot, is how do you add value to other people?
Yes.
Well, if you're going to do that, do you want someone else to leverage you to do that, or do you want to own that vehicle, that asset, that business that does that service for other people, right? So with our strategy, it's, you save and then you take your money and you're able to loan it to your business, and then your business goes out, serves people, brings more money back in, and you run that money back through the system and create that cash flow.
That's it. Right? Watch Gabe's hands. He's talking about the circle.
I've had the privilege of learning under my dad, he has a painting business. They do new construction apartments, but they've been doing this 25 years or so, and everything's in a contract. It's guaranteed. And they do their estimating so well that he's never lost money, and he knows how to finish jobs. So if, you never lose any money and you can stack your savings and your profits, eventually you get this compounding effect. If he would have known how to use infinite banking, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you, to be honest. We'd probably own like a piece of Costa Rica right now.
Well, life's happening for you. Your fact that you didn't love teaching physics and that you're here with me teaching this.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do this with you, because I love teaching this stuff, and I want to get really good at it and making it really simple. The same way I teach jiu-jitsu, it can be very complicated. We try to make it simple so that people can use it and get to start practicing. Because once you start doing it yourself, then you make it work for you in your life, and once it works for you, you're never going to stop.
That's it. And once you realize, when we support people and we're helping people step on the mat, and one of the concepts with victory is that we train, and then we test, and then we teach. So everyone keep that in mind. You're going to train. You're here training. You're on the mat right now. You're learning. And then you're going to test, which means you're going to start. You're going to get to a point where your savings is bigger than your expenses, and you're going to create the structure for yourself, your own foundation, and then you're going to turn around and teach others. This is how we free America. This is how we change things. Because look at this statistic. This is shocking to me. Still to this day, and this is, Will Rogers, the problem in America isn't what people don't know, it's what they think they know that just ain't so. If we all understand that only 5% of us are going to end when we go into retirement or whatever, we stop doing the thing we're doing now, and we have financial security, that's an abysmal fact. And it just goes back to who is not our friends, the bank and the government. They are predatory. They are living off of our work, and we have the opportunity to still work with them, but just not in the same capacity. So Gabe, if you could, talk a little bit about the tailwind concept.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics, because sometimes it might feel like you've been swimming against the current, and that's what it feels with these financial bullies. But once you can get ahead, now you're almost swimming with the current. I've seen analogies with an airplane, with a sailboat, but having a tailwind on your back, it takes a lot of pressure off of you. So maybe now you have different choices you can make about what kind of job or business you can do, or even not all money is good money, right? So sometimes we got to turn away certain clients, but having that choice and that freedom, I think that's something that money can buy you. But when you have a tailwind, that's what I felt the most. It takes the monkey off your back, and you feel like I have a plan that's achievable. It's a long-term plan, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't have to put things at risk. And in jiu-jitsu, we favor using gravity. I want to make it me and the planet against you. So I want to put you on the ground and now force you to hold my body weight. And I'm going to get to a position where you can't escape. And the more you push me, the more you get tired. And I'm just using my body weight to exhaust you. And then once you're exhausted, I can do whatever I want, right? Whether I want to do a submission, like a choke or an arm lock. But it's 2 against 1. And that's the way I kind of see this too. I want money working for me, not against me, essentially, with the interest. But what are your thoughts on it?
No, I love that. I really loved how you explained that. It is about taking what is available to you and realizing that sometimes, trying to do the same, like the definition of insanity is to continue doing what you're trying to do, that it's not working, and just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like sanity, coming from Sanos, just means that you're taking ownership, that's congruent, that you're aligned with that principle. And whether you're doing jiu-jitsu or you're doing taekwondo, it's very much about what the other person is doing. So if you can have it to where someone else is doing the majority of the work, like Chief Master, when he fights, when he's sparring, like there's very little movement, but everything is very intentional, and everything is very, like, he was showing us different stuff that you would like, Gabe. He was showing us different choke holds and how to self-defense. We're doing like a little bit of Krav, a little bit of Muay Thai, and like both sides of my neck are super sore today because he was just locking me in and just a little this part of his arm into my neck over and over last night as the dummy, right? And he wasn't making hardly any movement, but it had so much impact. So when you switch from trying to swim upstream, or you switch from trying to fly into the wind, or like I'm a sailor, I grew up sailing Hobie cats, but when you're trying to go tack into the wind, it's super frustrating. It's super slow. It's way easier to turn around and go with the wind and get pushed. And so if you have the patience to practice, and you have the patience to understand that it's not going to happen immediately, but if you trust the idea that it'll be a perpetual tailwind that's guaranteed for the rest of your life, that's what's available. That's what we're both talking about with martial arts, with life, with energy, because it's all about motion, right? Which is another cool kind of thing that just kind of came to me here.
Yeah.
And I put this together just as a before and after. I'm just going to quickly go through this. But let's look at the U.S. financial milestones. I want you guys just to think. I'm going to keep challenging your thinking, because it's the most important thing you can do is to pause and think and dig into this and see what if we're telling you is true. Mutual companies really started here in the U.S. for insurance in the 1830s. Like Ben Franklin started with fire, and then it went into eventually insuring people's lives because some of the breadwinners were dying prematurely. But that's 200 years ago almost, right? We're talking 200 years. Mutually owned companies, dividend paying companies, have been in the United States. Linus mentioned it earlier in the chat. 1913 was a fishy year, right? Before 1913, go look this up, the US had a surplus of money. We were not running bankrupt every single year. 1913, what happened? Federal Reserve, IRS, central banking established, income tax begins being collected, and now we're at a historically low tax period, right? I think in the 30s and 40s and 20s, there was up to 70, 80%, taxation even higher, I think up to 90 some percent. But then you have the government, when they create a problem, what do they do to try to help us? They come up with a solution. And so we have the solutions, pension plans that really started to gain popularity in the 50s, right? And then in 74, you got the ERISA and qualified plans and retirement plans sponsored by the government, and you get matches and you get all this stuff. And then in the 90s, 97, IULs came out, and this is because people wanted to move around away from whole life, because before 76 and before, 85% of Americans practice what we're teaching. We wouldn't even need to be teaching this right now, because people already understood what their parents and grandparents and previous generations did worked. And then something changed. We just kept giving up more and more control. And we're going to keep giving up more and more control because everything seems crazy. You got digital currency, you got crypto, you got all these different things happening in the world bricks. You've got all these different things, but the reality, before 1913, everything was pretty okay financially for people in the US. The government's created all these problems. We're just telling you again, the banks are not your friends. It is the proverbial, fox guarding the chicken coop. So I know I'm hammering this, but just see that that is what the reality is and look into it, research it, do the research yourself.
And then you can choose your environment, right? What environment do you want your money in? The environment that'll create a tailwind for you, or do you want the environment where you're going to have a headwind and you're going to be going against the grain? Right? You want to do the hard way or the way it's supposed to flow?
We all know it's about flow too, right? It's about that constant motion of life. It's God's law. Like everything we're talking about is from the Creator, right? And it's the reason Gabe and I are here again is because we came up against challenges, and when we learned about this, we said, hey, if we're being the best version of ourselves, as martial artists, as men, as leaders, it is to teach other people what we know and turn around and extend our hand, right? That's how I feel about it. So, now we have, empowerment with IBC, Infinite Banking Concept, as brought to us by Nelson Nash, right? He started, I think, teaching and practicing and learning this in the 80s, and then his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, came out in 2000. And so, again, we've talked about choosing your environment. We've talked about understanding the rules of the game. We talked about how you're guaranteed growth, you can't lose money, a guaranteed legacy that's tax-free, right? We talked about the worst thing you could leave is a taxable estate. And so this is free from government taxation. This is free from the government. As I showed in the previous slide, all of this came before the government. And so, Gabe, let's talk about some action steps. We have this great group today.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure exactly who everyone is that's on, whether they're already money multiplier clients or they're looking to start their journey, how many policies they have.
We've got a mix of all belts here. I can tell you that for a fact.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But did you want to do questions at all, or do you want to?
No, I think I want to give them some action steps, as what we'd recommend when they step on the mat. And then, of course, we've got several more weeks of teaching. So
if they haven't read the books, then that should be a priority. At least becoming your own banker and mapping out the millionaire mystery, because we will refer to them. And if you have read it, go ahead and reread.
You read it twice, read it a third time. Brent's read it 107 times. When he said that, I was like, dang, my 10 times is not that much. So
I'm not great with tracking, but that's something that I try to do is because I'm not good at it, I try to stay ahead of it. But track your cash flow, right? Active income, passive income, and expenses. Figure out what your burn rate is, what your freedom numbers are. Because if you have those numbers in front of your mind, you'll start to see problems differently and try to stay. What we don't want is, you to ignore your finances and not be paying attention to it, because, time is going to pass very fast. 3 months could go by, 6 months could go by. I just had a baby and he's, 5 months already.
Are you sleeping? I didn't know that.
No, not sleeping. So I think that should be good. If you don't track your cash flow, all the money that comes into your family, all the money that leaves, maybe start doing that, keeping some kind of, if we were doing nutritional advice, it'd be keep like a food journal.
That's it. That's my favorite example. Like we're coming up on the holidays, and people will be like, what's the biggest thing that people do? They have a New Year's resolution, and they say they're going to go to the gym, they're going to get in shape, they're going to do this. If you have a nutritionist that's worth a salt, the first thing they're going to ask you, Gabe, is what's your big vision, man? Why, you got a 5-month-old, what's your big vision? Why do you want to have more energy? Why do you want, whatever your thing is, you got to establish your why. You got to have that big vision of where do you ultimately want to be and see yourself there. See it done. Give yourself permission it's done. And then work backwards. Write down, write down what it'll take, what skills you're going to have to learn, what are you going to have to read, right? Who's going to be around you is an important one. I put engage a financial ally. Find someone that's a training partner. The best thing you can do on the mat is find someone that's either at your exact level, or preferably find someone that's slightly ahead of you, that they can teach you, that they can turn around. If you're, a second or third degree black belt Like, go find a first degree, or go find a red belt, or go find a brown belt. Find somebody that you can actually, like we said, train, right? And then they're testing to see what you know and don't know, and that's doing, and then turn around and teach that. And as Gabe said, write down your assets. Know, like, the next thing that the nutritionist is going to tell you, write down everything you eat for 2 weeks, everything you drink, because I guarantee a lot of people who are starting that journey are drinking way more calories and way more sugar than they could even imagine.
Oh yeah.
Right? There's a whole nother rabbit hole I could spend days on. And so engage again. Do an environmental audit. See where you're at today and be honest. All progress starts with being honest with yourself.
And be honest with your vision too. You know, like, do you have goals? Are those truly your goals, or
Ooh, yeah,
are they kind of
that's
implanted
deep.
from society, from social media, from someone else? What's gonna make you happy, and what's it gonna take? You know, for me, if I have a profitable business teaching what I'm passionate about, I can't ask for more, man. But what's nice with our system, as the cash flow runs through itself, there will be a surplus. But if my day-to-day isn't fulfilling, now I'm just kind of living for the future. But then also, if where I've been before is, working and grinding so hard, but all for the wrong reasons. And then, what is the saying? We try to impress people that, we don't even like.
Yes.
With money we don't even have. We
Yeah,
spend money we don't have to impress people we don't even like.
Yes.
But if you can create some alignment between all these things, and it takes time, it takes a lot of contemplation, meditation, but looking deep, and that's what martial arts will do for you. You're not gonna get a black belt if you want to do it for external reasons. There's just something deep within you that makes you want to pursue it.
Amen to that, man. Amen to the fact that you have to know what you love. I'm telling you, from being a type A person and being someone that thought that achieving meant that I would be accepted, and I spent 46 years going out to achieve, looking for external recognition. It's just a fact. I learned it from an early age. You can avoid confrontation by being good at things and achieving. When you understand that God already accepts you, and now you can go out and perform and go out and serve, everything changes. And that's what I feel the energy that Gabe's bringing you. It's very much about your energy. It's very much about finding things that fill you up and people that fill you up versus things that take from you. And so if we pull this full circle, the things that are taking from us, even though we're working really hard, not our friends, the banks. Right? So find that ally. Find someone that you can teach this to, talk about it, find that learning buddy. List the 3 habits.
And if you haven't talked to a money mentor, maybe this will change how you start the plan. Just, look at this. Schedule a strategy session with a money mentor. And, maybe you have a little bit more alignment with your plan. It might motivate you to put in a little bit more money or less money, but having an intrinsic motivation and knowing you're progressing one step towards something you really care about, it'll get you off the couch and get you into motion, right? And with action, practice. Next week we're talking about practice.
Practice?
This week is about the way. Next week is about practice, but it's about action, and action. Motion creates emotion. There's always cool little sayings, but
I love that one. That's it. Celebrate yourself. If you're here today, I want everybody, give yourself a hug, pat yourself on the back, give yourself a high five. Celebrate. Celebrate the little bit of progress, because progress equals happiness. We are not selling you anything. Gabe and I are inviting you to step on the mats with us. Come back next week. It's going to get better and better as we work together, as we create this training for you. And I promise you, wherever you're at, Shane, Felix, I know you guys are already practicing, there's always another level. There's always another level. You cannot arrive. The road to mastership is endless. It ends when we are no longer here. And hopefully we've done it well enough that it'll continue for many, many generations after we are gone. That is our intent. my intent is to change the financial face of America. It sounds crazy to me, but I believe on a you and me level, Gabe, I believe this is a great start. So what do you think? Any final closing statements from you?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm glad that now, you're kind of like my training partner. We can build this thing out together.
That's it right there. That is 100% it, brother.
Because now there's accountability with me showing up. I met Brent in 2014, but I wasn't ready to start until 2019 with my policy. But when I met him, I knew, oh man, I need to teach this to everyone I meet. And the more I learned about it, the more I understood, the more I knew, I have to somehow just keep telling people about this. But I never quite had the confidence. But now, once I've seen my cash value after, about 6 years of doing this and what I've been able to do, I can't go any longer without sharing. So I love this platform to start, and I'm excited to see what, we get into.
Again, thank you, Gabe, for being here. Thank you for your time, your energy, your wisdom, your journey, and sharing it, and being my accountability, my training partner, right? We're being the partner. We're getting into this together, and I love that. Everyone here, congratulations to you. You're doing what few people will do. You showed up. You gave your attention, your energy. You participated. I love that. Participate more. Exchange numbers, right? Get to know each other. This is the community that we want for you, is on the mat with us. From white belt to black belt and beyond, your road to mastership and financial freedom starts here. So we'll see you next week. So there you guys had it. We went and we invited you on the mat with us today. And we talked about who is not your friends. Do you remember? The banks are not our friends. The government is not our friends. So over the next couple weeks, we're going to keep showing you. But before that, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and smash that like button and ring the bell so you can get alerted to future trainings with myself and my training accountability partner, Gabe Retana. And check out this video here that tells you the money multiplier method, how you can build, keep, and create more wealth. And it's all about creating that financial tailwind as we discussed today. See you guys in the next video. Be blessed. God bless.